Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the latest on the baby formula crisis. Also, did you know that there's a tampon shortage that's hit America? We're going to talk about that. And is Chief Justice John Roberts trying to get his colleagues killed? That and more on today's edition of the Carl Jackson podcast.
Redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Podcast today. First off, I want to start with this abysmal performance of Karine Jean-Pierre, the current White House press secretary. Guys, she is a disaster, but the cool thing we know is that she's the first gay Black female press secretary, I think an immigrant from Haiti as well. So that's important to know. But what's more important is she completely sucks at her job. She's completely ill prepared for the task at hand. She was questioned about the latest on the baby formula shortage. Women are still very concerned about this, even though the mainstream media is trying their best to brush it under the rug, just like the border crisis that we'll be talking about later on this week. But I want you to hear this audio and watch this video from Karine Jean-Pierre that doesn't have a clue of what she's doing. She literally has to flip through the pages of her binder in order to try to ascertain if there's any new information on the baby formula crisis. She doesn't have it, but we have it. But first, let's play this video of Karine Jean-Pierre.
Go ahead. You in the corner. I've never called in you.
Thank you.
In the black.
Thank you. So I have two questions on baby formula. So first, what is the latest update the White House has received on the current infant formula situation across the country?
Yeah, let me see if I have anything new for you on that.
How embarrassing.
I think it's been a couple of days since we have
Clueless.
been asked that question. Okay. I don't have anything new. I know we made some announcements last week. I just don't have them in front of me. But if you want to come back and we'll talk through the things that we have been able to do in the past, the most recent activities that we've done.
And the second question, so House Appropriations Chairwoman Rosa DeLauro sent a letter to the HHS Inspector General asking the FDA asking the Inspector General to investigate the FDA's recent policy to use enforcement discretion for certain importation of infant formula. So, but she expressed concerns that the rapid pace that they're making these approval decisions with only 9 full-time staff members. So is the President confident that the FDA is being able to make these decisions to make sure infant formula that is being imported is safe? And
so first, I haven't seen the letter, so that's number one, so can't really speak to the letter. If you're asking me if the President has confidence in the FDA, he does. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, all right. So enough of Karine Jean-Pierre. Obviously, she wasn't helpful one iota, but it's important to know that she's Black and she's gay, so that has to count for something. Hat tip Epoch Times, many baby formula plants weren't inspected because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and I would dare say the lockdown and the effect that the Democrats were trying to portray as if everything, the world, the sky was falling and all of this kind of nonsense. But it starts off like this. Actually, they're quoting, or they pulled a piece from the AP. Washington, U.S. regulators have historically inspected baby formula plants at least once a year, but they did not inspect any of the 3 largest manufacturers in 2020. This, according to federal records reviewed by the AP. When they finally did get inside an Abbott Nutrition formula plant in Michigan after a 2-year gap, unbelievable, they found standing water and lax sanitation procedures, but inspectors offered voluntary suggestions for fixing the problems, but issued no federal warning, or no formal warning, I should say. And then they returned 5 months later to the plant after 4 infants who consumed the powder, or who consumed powdered formula from the plant, suffered bacterial infections. That's never been proven or linked, by the way. The latest news on that. They did find at the time bacterial contamination inside of the factory, however, and that led to a 4-month shutdown and turning a festering supply shortage into the full-blown crisis that we are undergoing today. And obviously, it sent parents, mothers especially, into a panic. And then we've had to airlift other products in from other nations. So this is pretty crazy what we're going through. The Congress has proposed a bill that would require the FDA to inspect infant formula facilities every 6 months. Isn't that crazy? And the government inspector generals for health has launched an inquiry into the FDA's handling of Abbott's facility, the largest in the U.S. So there is going to be an inquiry as to how the FDA handled the whole situation. Obviously, they handled the situation very poorly. And I don't have any confidence that a government agency investigating another government agency is going to do much of anything worthwhile. But we'll have to wait and see. But listen, these companies, I guess, when you're producing things like the baby formula, they should be inspected regularly. In my opinion, we shouldn't have gone 2 years without inspecting some of the largest facilities. I want to share more information with you. During COVID, the FDA pulled most of its safety inspectors from the field, and they ended up skipping thousands of routine plant inspections. So imagine that. These guys pulled most of their inspectors from the field. And I know the argument would be, obviously, there was a pandemic going on, a worldwide pandemic. We were fearful of our employees, so on, et cetera. You mean to tell me that with all of the rules and regulations that were in place, everything from the advisories that were in place, everything from social distancing to mask and all that kind of stuff, if that stuff really works, why didn't your FDA employees follow those protocols and go ahead and make sure they delivered on the inspections? This doesn't make any sense to me. You guys know that Abbott has since resumed production in the last month with the approval of the FDA, but the news just doesn't. I mean, there's no confidence in the FDA whatsoever. No confidence whatsoever. So the FDA only performed what they consider, quote, mission critical, close quote, inspections during the period of COVID, basically. So regulators selected facilities for inspections based on whether or not they carried a specific safety risk or were needed to produce an important medical therapy. So listen to this. Only 3 of the nation's 23 facilities that make, package, or distribute formula made the cut. And the FDA, again, resumed routine inspections in July of 2021, but that had been slow up until recently when the Biden administration got all of the backlash that they had gotten and are still receiving, though little of it, in my opinion. The inspection records reviewed by the AP show gaps as large as 2.5 years between the FDA's 2019 inspections and when regulators returned to plants owned by the 3 leading formula manufacturers. So they only had, consider this, they only had 3 facilities to inspect because basically the other 20 were shut down for the most part. And even with that few of a number, you're talking about a 2.5-year gap. I think it goes without saying, big government is supremely inefficient, and we cannot rely on these people whatsoever. In fact, the FDA still has yet to return one key plant owned by one of the major 3 corporations and 2 owned by Gerber. Here are the major 3. I didn't name those. The inspection records reviewed by the AP show gaps of 2.5 years between the FDA's 2019 inspections and when regulators returned to plants owned by the 3 leading formula manufacturers. That's Abbott, which is in Michigan. You have Reckitt and you have Gerber. So the FDA, again, still has yet to return to one key plant owned by Reckitt and 2 owned by Gerber, according to the agency records. All those facilities are operating around the clock to boost U.S. formulation production. And here's the bottom line. The FDA should have boots on the ground during COVID. They skipped 15,000 inspections. They have now completed up to 5,000, which they say is a great pace for them. Considering that they reopened or they started investigating or inspecting again of July of 2021. So you mean to tell me we're coming up on a year right? July is going to hit us pretty rapidly here. They performed 5,000 inspections. They feel proud of themselves. They're patting themselves on the back. They think this is they're making a pretty good go at it. But if you look at the numbers, they've been closed down 2.5, or they haven't inspected for approximately 2.5 years. And then they start inspecting again. They complete about 5,000 in 1 year. So does that mean it's going to take 2 years to finish the inspections that they should have already undergone? Listen, man, the FDA is woefully incompetent, in my opinion. Under the current law, the FDA is only required to inspect formula facilities every 3 to 5 years, but the agency has consistently inspected facilities annually. That's up until the pandemic hit. This is a quote from the FDA. Our top priority is now addressing the urgent need for infant formula in the U.S. market, and our teams are working night and day to help make that happen. If the FDA is this bad with formula, baby formula, what about medicine? What about medicine? You guys think about that? FDA Commissioner Robert Cliff says regulators knew shutting down Abbott's plant will create supply problems, but there was little evidence of urgency between when inspectors shuttered the plant in February and recent emergency measures to allow more imports from abroad. There was just no urgency from the Biden administration. They want to lie. They want to blame these companies. They want to blame everybody else. They want to blame Putin for the gas price hikes when it is the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, and the Democrat Party that are woefully inadequate, that are woefully incompetent. Longtime food safety specialists see a deeper problem at the highest levels of the FDA, where physicians and medical scientists for decades have prioritized oversight of drugs and medical products over our food. It's very challenging. This, according to Stephen Maternack, he's the executive director of the Association of Food and Drug Officials. And he says it's very challenging for them to get engaged at all in this area because they don't have the background, the knowledge, and the experience in it. This guy is saying the FDA doesn't have the expertise to be inspecting baby formula. Crazy, but this is the truth. The FDA shares oversight of food production and safety with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. This is what I mean. This is why I can't stand big government. What we need to do is condense or consolidate all of these agencies. It doesn't seem to me that we need both the FDA and the Department of Agriculture. I read on. The FDA shares oversight of food production and safety with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. FDA inspections of food facilities peaked in 2011. Listen to this. FDA inspections of food facilities peaked in 2011, Obama's term, and have declined most years since, despite the fact that they get more funding from Congress. Oh, my God. There's no certainty that extra inspections during COVID-19 would have prevented the contamination problems at the Sturgis, Michigan plant that was shut down, and Abbott says that its products have not been directly linked to the infections, 2 of which were fatal. So that's the latest on the shortage when it comes to baby formula. But hey, how about this shortage? Have you guys heard about the tampon shortage? Now Biden's tampon shortage is in full force. Guys, this is why I was saying, even on my radio show last night, that I want to go on offense. There's no reason that we should be on defense when it comes to the left. The left is the party of the cuckoos, the crazies, the extremists, the inept, the incompetent. That is the Democrat Party today. Not necessarily talking about all of their voters, but if they're voting for Democrats, obviously they are complicit. These people can't get anything right. We know that they are trying to fundamentally destroy the country. We get it, but they're even incompetent at doing that, because they don't know. All they know is government. All they know is theory. A lot of these people graduating from college with virtually no experience. You have Joe Biden leading at the helm. This is a guy that's been in Washington, D.C. for approximately half a century. He knows nothing else except lying and being a politician. The guy hasn't run a business. He doesn't know what he's doing in office. For God's sakes, when the, perhaps the second or third worst president, Obama, says that, never underestimate Biden's ability to F things up. And I'm paraphrasing, but he did use the F word. Then listen, there's a problem here. Hat tip just the news. Women face tampon shortage as inflation hits essential items. Tampons are reportedly becoming difficult to find as supply chain shortages create another problem affecting women following the baby formula crisis. And this is a quote from Senator Maggie Hassan. She's a Democrat from New Hampshire. She doesn't have a lot of brains. You will, after I read this quote, you'll understand why. She says, "We've seen the reports. Tampons are becoming more expensive and scarcer on store shelves, and companies are profiting at record levels off of a basic necessity. That's absurd. No, Senator Maggie Hassan, or Hassan, however you pronounce your name, you are absurd. It isn't the company's fault per se. It is your party. You guys do not know what you're doing. You continue to try to force these lockdowns on the American people. And as a result of that, there are other issues as well. But we had, as a result of the lockdowns and some other issues, we have this problem with scarcity. We have the supply chain shortage. You guys went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You did the American Rescue Plan. You gave people more money to sit at home and work, and sit on their butts instead of going back to work. So now we don't have people building stuff. We don't have people distributing stuff. We don't have any of that. We have too many people sitting on their butts at home as a result of the quote unquote American Rescue Plan that didn't rescue America, but helped to destroy America and damage America, as we see the effects and the toll that it's taking on America today. The problem is, Senator Maggie Hassan, your party stinks. The Democrat Party's policies stink. And you guys just aren't willing to admit it. But Senator Maggie Hassan goes on in her stupidity. Today, I am calling on CEOs of the 4 major tampon producers to increase supply, not prices. Huh? So you mean when none of us, I don't care if you're a CEO or you're a regular everyday citizen of America, all of us are experiencing the problems with higher pricing and all that kind of stuff, with supply chain shortages, fuel and all this stuff. The energy prices have gone absurd under the Biden administration, but it's the CEO's fault. They can just bring down the prices despite the fact that whatever it takes to make and to ship these products, these tampon products, are costing these companies a lot more money. These people don't know jack when it comes to either they're lying or they're stupid or they're uninformed. The article goes on to say the problem may not lie with companies, however. Inflation is at a 40-year high. Under Joe Biden, the price increases are affecting many essential items, including tampons. NPR even reported this. Here's something from Procter & Gamble. Menstrual product producer Procter & Gamble said in April that the ongoing supply chain crisis would lead to a price increase on products starting mid-July. All of that, tampons are already 10% more expensive than they were from last year. This, according to Nielsen IQ data. So here, Procter and Gamble, obviously, since they're aware of this, there's no doubt in my mind that the Biden administration, just like the lack of or the potential baby formula crisis, they knew, the Biden administration did, that there would be a tampon shortage crisis, and yet here we are. Companies are blaming factory staffing issues, transportation problems, and the rising costs in raw materials used to make the hygiene products. So the companies know what they're doing. The Biden administration, as evidenced earlier by Karine Jean-Pierre, don't know what the hell they're doing. This lady, in order to get answers for a journalist asking a basic, simple question, has to thumb through her notebook binder or what have you, and she doesn't know. She doesn't know. She's uninformed. Why is she uninformed? I can't completely fault Karine Jean-Pierre. These people are in a bad predicament. The same was true with Jen Psaki, because they are serving a very feckless, virtually brain dead Joe Biden. But they also have bad policies that they cannot defend. But Jen Psaki was at least better at lying than is Karine Jean-Pierre. Karine Jean-Pierre is just totally incompetent. But she's black and she's gay, so that makes up for all the difference. That's all the difference in the world. Procter & Gamble told NPR that their, and I quote, Tampax team is producing tampons 24/7 to meet the increased demand, close quote, and the supply chain problems are only temporary. I Support the Girls, another group that provides menstrual products to women in need, has reported a drop in tampon donations. They say our shelves are bare. She said, explaining that her group has seen 60% fewer donations this year than in 2020. And guys, we have to look at this too, the inevitable. If men can now use tampons, maybe there's even more reason for a shortage there. Just something to think about. That's what the left would have you believe anyway. If women, this is a conservatives are criticizing Biden for the situation. This is Nicole Morales of the RNC, and she said if women can even find feminine hygiene products, they will need to pay nearly 10% more to keep up with Biden inflation. She went on to say there would be more supply. This actually is Spencer Brown for Town Hall. There will be more supply available if they stop putting tampons in men's bathrooms. So he said exactly what I was thinking. So obviously that is a jab at the left. That is a jab at their policies. And it is worth noting. I don't know why we don't go on the offense when it comes to Joe Biden. Joe Biden's job approval is now underwater in 48 states. He only has 33% approval overall. The only two states, and I could go over the list of all the states, but I won't because that'll take tons of time. But here's what I want you to know. It is time for conservatives to go on offense on every single issue. The Biden administration, as I talked about last night on my radio show, is done. Stick a fork in it. It is done. The Democrat Party are doing their best to try to separate themselves from the Biden-Harris administration and run away from them. You had AOC come out and admit, or not admit, or at least she refused to say whether or not she would support Biden for 2024. Listen, they know the guy isn't going anywhere. And for AOC, Biden perhaps isn't extreme enough. They think they can just shove everything down the throats of Americans, all of their policies. They don't think Biden has gone far enough, despite the fact that the guy has virtually destroyed the country in unprecedented time. Did you think that we would be in the situation that we find ourselves in today with the supply chain crisis, the racial divisiveness, open borders, in proxy war with using Ukraine against Russia? And that isn't going well right now because even though, listen, guys, we're in that war. I understand none of us want to be at war. We're there. The Biden administration put us there, and they're not even doing an effective job of supplying the Ukrainian people with the weaponry that they need to get the job done. So you have Vladimir Putin with his advanced weaponry advancing. Now considering parts of eastern Ukraine and the Donbas region, going after more and more and more and more because this administration is so feckless. But again, you have a job approval underwater in 48 states. Again, stick a fork in it. This presidency is over. It is time for conservatives to go on the offense on every single aspect, whether it is life, whether it is fuel prices, whether it's the food shortages, tampon shortages, baby formula shortages. The left, the Democrat Party, has nothing to brag about. They've accomplished nothing except destroying America. And so it's time for us to go on offense. We can't hold back. We can't hold back any longer. Republicans shouldn't be acquiescing like they did to the Democrats on gun control. No, it's time to advance. It's time to go back to our Judeo-Christian values. It is time to go back to the Bill of Rights and re-embrace those things that have made America great, because now what we've gotten to see under the Biden-Harris administration is that the left policies, when they're played out to their ultimate end, they don't work. They only destroy America. The only two states where Biden is over water, if you will, or above water, is Hawaii, where 50% approve, 38% disapprove. Vermont, 46% approve, 37% disapprove. Those are the only two states. The other states, some consider traditionally blue, including California and New York. The Biden administration is underwater. What does that tell you? Even Democrats know that these people stink at their jobs. Now, I got to tell you guys, after I take a quick swig here, I want to tell you guys about the latest terrorist attack on yet another pro-life facility that is helping women and their babies out. Another firebomb attack in Gresham, Oregon. I'll tell you about that shortly. And then I got a question to ask you. What the hell is Chief Justice John Roberts doing? Is he trying to get his colleagues killed? I mean, he should have issued the decision on this, whether or not SCOTUS is going to overturn Roe right away, especially considering all of the torture and pain that some of his colleagues are experiencing. He hasn't done it. And also, you haven't seen those justices that are more liberal or on the left, if you will, come out and support their colleagues. Why not? Oregon Pregnancy Center firebombed by pro-abortion activists. I'm sure you can find the videos online. I mean, the place was torched. It was torched. It's ashes. First image, a pro-life pregnancy center in the area of Grisham, Oregon, was firebombed in the early morning hours of June 11, making this the fourth known arson committed against pro-life organizations since the leak of the Supreme Court draft opinion in the Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization case indicated a potential overturn of Roe v. Wade. According to the center CEO, a guy by the name of Luke Cirillo, authorities believe that an incendiary device thrown through a window sparked a blaze, which was mostly contained to one room due to the alarm system, which alerted fire and police immediately. Okay, so that's good news. You see the pictures. That one room, at least it's a good-sized room, is torched. It is ashes. I assumed it was the entire facility. It isn't. You can go see pictures online, as well as the assailants that look like Antifa characters walking up. You can tell they had enough uncover where you could tell they were white. So a couple skinny guys. You could tell that a couple of the other assailants were female, although at least one, looked to have a buzz cut, but in my opinion, still looked like a female. Cirillo stated in the release, quote, "There was extensive damage and additional water and smoke damage in other parts of the building, but nobody was hurt," close quote. He also goes on to say there were no messages left behind, and at this point, we do not know who committed this crime. But again, there is footage there, close quote. He says, when our SE Portland Pregnancy Resource Center was vandalized a few weeks back, I said at the time that we had an incredibly resilient team. It remains true. Cirillo says, "I am deeply encouraged by the way our staff grieves honestly and prays genuinely for the hearts of the people perpetrating these crimes. At the same time, this hurts. Arson is particularly violent and destructive," he says, "and it comprises a sense of safety for our team and for the people we serve. On top of that, this will require temporary closure of our center until we can make repairs," close quote. This is why, in part, why the Second Amendment is so important. I'm sorry. You should be able, what if people were in this building? You should be able to defend your life against these extremists on the left. And make no mistake about it, the left, the Democrat Party, is the party of extremists. Let's be emphatically clear about that. He goes on to say the kind of outrage that's being directed at us is based on a complete misunderstanding and misrepresentation of who we are and how we have served the hundreds of thousands of people that have come to us over the decades. This moment in our culture is volatile, and the spillover into violence is deeply destructive to the fabric of our communities. We reject and refuse to have any part in the culture of hate. Jesus has modeled a different way. It's the way of love. That narrow way includes, as a challenge to us all, the love of those who hate us. Man, that is good stuff. There, Cirillo said that they had plans to fully renovate the Gresham Center before the arson took place, and they plan to reopen and quote, "be a welcoming, warm, and beautiful space where we can again serve our clients with all the care we always have," close quote. I think this is going to backfire on the left. When you have someone that's acting in a Christ-like manner for that, like this, and people see that compared to people that are just evil and that would firebomb a center. And listen, these ladies aren't doing anything. These people aren't doing anything. I thought you guys were pro-choice on the left. These ladies have chosen to keep their children, to keep their babies. What is the problem with that? If you want abortion, if you want to go out and kill your babies, there's still going to be plenty of opportunity. Why do you have to go after the women and the people that are helping them that have made a different choice, quote unquote? We can't work with these people. There's no compromise with these people. We got to crush them in the elections. There's no compromise with them. And again, I think John Roberts is putting these people in grave danger, not just his colleagues, but these people that work these facilities, by not coming out and making a statement, by not coming out and letting us know the decision. This isn't the first time this has happened. I could go over several instances where these pro-life centers have been targeted and set on fire, set ablaze, or what have you. We had the latest incident by the pro-abortion terrorists. Is just one of many violent threats that occurred. The first image is the second pro-life pregnancy center in the state to be targeted for arson since the Supreme Court opinion was leaked. In May, Wisconsin Family Action became the first victim of an arson attack. So now you got copycats, right? When the domestic terrorist group Jane's Revenge took credit for the criminal act. Also last month, a Molotov cocktail was thrown into the offices of Oregon Right to Life. And just days ago, a third act of arson was committed against Compass Care Pregnancy Services in Buffalo, New York. I mean, this is absolutely insane. But these are the terror attacks that we're seeing. And then you have this guy, this Attorney General, Merrick Garland, that is doing absolutely nothing when it comes to these types of crimes or to protect our Supreme Court justices. It is illegal for these protesters, these little, they're beyond protesters, these little communists, these little Marxists. It is illegal for them to protest in front of the houses of judges in order to try to persuade or to sway their vote. Yet they're doing it. And we're not hearing anything about it. Merrick Garland isn't prosecuting any of this stuff. Unbelievable to me. All right. And then we have this last thing. Hat tip the Federalist. John Roberts' refusal to release Dobbs' opinion is jeopardizing the lives of his colleagues. The article starts out by saying that since the infamous leak of the Supreme Court draft majority opinion in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization last month, Americans have waited with bated breath for the High Court to issue its verdict on the constitutionality of the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision, which federally legalized abortion in the United States, despite high expectations that the court would release its final Dobbs opinion, which is expected to deem Roe unconstitutional on Monday. SCOTUS instead issued a series of less contentious opinions, once again leaving millions of Americans in limbo. The High Court is set to release more legal opinions on Wednesday, with notable cases pertaining to gun rights, school choice, and the regulatory power of the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, also awaiting publication. While the leaked Dobbs majority draft opinion striking down federally legalized abortion has generated enthusiasm from pro-life activists, the prospect of SCOTUS overturning Roe has pushed an already unhinged left to the breaking point. Actually, I mean, it's just exposed them for who they are. They're evil people on the left. They're communists. They're Marxists. They don't care. They don't care if they tear America down and get their way in the end, not knowing that they'll be the ones screwed as well. Since the draft's publication in Politico, leftists have repeatedly shown up in droves at the homes of Republican appointed members of the court in order to harass and intimidate the justices and to keeping Roe in place. For those of you that support this stuff, I would say you're terrorists too. You're despicable human beings, in my opinion. How dare you go to someone's house to participate in this nonsense? I wish you would get a dose of your own medicine. I really do. I really do. I know your lives aren't as, I guess, purposeful as meaningful. So you have to go out and intimidate others. You spineless men out there. I can't say the men out there are just punks. These are men. These aren't real men, ladies. These are men that are either wusses or men that would prefer to get you pregnant and not have to take care of their responsibilities. And they're doing this. They're doing all this to virtue signal. If they were taught something different in college or around different peer circles, they wouldn't. They're spineless. They're gutless. They form a different opinion. That's who they are. So you have Samuel Alito. Last month, the left-wing activist group Shut Down D.C. organized a demonstration outside of Justice Samuel Alito's Virginia home, quote, because it's been impossible to reach him at the Supreme Court. No duh, the terrorist said, and that's a close quote, with participants shouting phrases such as our bodies, our voice, close quote, unquote, our body, our choice. It's a very stupid argument. In the light of DNA evidence, we now know that once a sperm comes in contact with the ovum or with the lady's egg, if you will, there's a separate strand of DNA that moment. So it isn't her body. It is a different person living within her body. But that's science. The left doesn't believe in science anymore, except to use science, woke scientists that will bend the knee to the left in order to get the results and the narrative that they want. But science is dead in America, at least at this point. They called Alito a coward, all this kind of stuff. They also threaten. There's also been threatening demonstrations that have taken place at the Virginia home of Amy Coney Barrett with the radical pro-abortion group Ruth Sent Us, recently encouraging its supporters to target Barrett's home, her children, and her church. These punks want to go after her home, her children, and her church. And Merrick Garland, the despicable piece of excrement that he is doing nothing about this. This is a quote from the terrorist of Ruth Sent Us. If you're in the D.C. metro area, join us. Our protest at Barrett's home. Move the needle to this coverage. False churches to people of praise. Stronghold. She needs her 7 kids to people of praise school that she sat on the board of directors for. She attends church daily. Close quote. Again, U.S. AG Merrick Garland is doing nothing about this. The most heinous incident, obviously, is the assassination attempt of Brett Kavanaugh. The Sunday news, the Sunday shows didn't even cover it. Fox News did, but ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, hey, so what? Who cares if you have to intimidate these people? Biden hasn't even acknowledged the assassination attempt. This should be a major headline on news stories today. The only thing that happened is his White House issued a statement. And in the statement, they said Biden condemns the actions of this individual in the strongest terms. Close quote. Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. John Roberts has failed his fellow justices again after the Dobbs draft opinion was released. Justice John Roberts, Chief Justice, announced the launch of an investigation to find the individual who leaked the majority opinion to Politico. Have you heard anything about that? I haven't. It's really that difficult to find out who did it. These people should be in prison. In my opinion, this person, whoever leaked it, they should suffer severe penalties. I don't know exactly what. I do feel like they should go to prison for quite some time. I think this is the first time this has happened with the Supreme Court. I think we need to set an example before this person ends up on CNN or MSNBC being paid millions of dollars to be a crappy host. The decision should be released today. If John Roberts cared for his fellow colleagues, he would release the decision today. Why isn't he? This from Sean Davis of the Federalist. He says, Roberts could issue Dobbs today and eliminate threats of violence to prevent its release, close quote, but is instead, and I quote again, deliberately doing nothing, close quote. So you have to consider this. Is the Chief Justice doing nothing? Why would he be doing nothing if that's their case? He's a good guy. He's a Catholic. There's people out there that know him in the conservative circle and conservative talk media say he's a good guy. He just wants he wants the integrity of the court to be upheld. All the while, he's destroying the credibility of the court, in my opinion. Sean Davis of the Federalist also said this, and I quote, what conclusions can be drawn other than that Roberts is fine with a leak he has wrought, and that he's fine with the prospect of violence and assassinations, precluding the release of a Dobbs release overturning Roe v. Wade. Now, here's something that I want to share with you. You might not know. Now, we do know that Roberts in the leak was opposed the reversal of Roe v. Wade. This guy's a devout Catholic, allegedly. But he opposes the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Unbelievable. But we also know this. He was trying to persuade, according to reporting, he was trying to persuade Amy Coney Barrett and Justice Kavanaugh to also join him and refusing to overturn Roe v. Wade. A Catholic trying to convince other Catholics not to do it. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of cases, and I've heard conservatives say it before. John Roberts has been very good. He's a very good justice on a lot of cases. But then when it comes to the cases that really matter, he doesn't want to politicize the court. He's managed to politicize the court. And in my opinion, he's managed to offend God. So the final decision for this will not be known until late June or early July, when this session for the Supreme Court for the justices will end. So is he going to allow them to remain tortured and threatened until then? Honestly, to me, this is completely despicable. It's completely despicable. Such irresponsible and feckless decision-making indicates that Roberts is seemingly seemingly fine with ongoing threats against his colleagues, some of whom, like Brett and Kavanaugh, are parents of young children. This is according to the Federalist, and it's a true statement. Remember, Roberts did this with Obamacare. Turning himself into a political pretzel in order to accommodate Obamacare and make it a tax. I'm sorry, this guy has done nothing but make the court political. Listen, guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Podcast. Please like and share it. You can follow me on social media, at The Carl Jackson Show on social media. I know it's a podcast, but we're saying The Carl Jackson Show on social media. Also, you can go to thecarljacksonshow.com, thecarljacksonshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast. Like, share, review, rate it. Please, we would very much so appreciate it. We're trying to make these numbers grow. We're trying to spread the message of freedom. I do intend to be your daily dose of objective truth in a world of lies. That is my goal. So God bless all of you guys for tuning in. And until next time, don't grow weary doing good. And God bless.